Got to admit, 6 decades is a long time, but I've never been one to count the years, just the work that still needs doing. The audience let out a mix of laughs and murmurs, sensing the quiet confidence in his words. Fiona, unfazed, leaned in with a smirk. Oh, come on, Clint, you've done it all. Westerns, war films, political speeches. Don't you ever think about, I don't know, just sitting back and letting the world move forward? Clint let the question hang in the air for a moment, then gave a slight nod. The world moves forward whether I sit back or not. But if you're asking whether I'm done speaking my mind, the answer is no. A ripple of intrigued murmurs swept through the crowd. Fiona chuckled, tapping her pen against the desk. Fair enough, she said, before shifting gears. Now, you've been known for your strong opinions, some might say, outdated ones. Do you think your perspective still has a place in today's world? Clint took a slow breath, glancing at the audience before returning his gaze to Fiona. Opinions don't come with an expiration date, he replied, his voice steady. Right or wrong, time sorts that out, not popularity. The room fell silent for a moment, an unusual pause in Fiona's usually fast-paced show. She blinked, clearly expecting a more defensive response. Recovering quickly, she gave a half-smile. All right, I'll give you that one. But surely, you must see that the world is different now. The ideas of the past don't always fit the present. Clint leaned forward slightly, his presence commanding without effort. Maybe. Or maybe the present just likes to think it's different while making the same mistakes in new ways. A few members of the audience let out low whistles. Even Fiona had to admit, the man knew how to hold his ground. But she wasn't done yet. All right, Clint, let's talk about let's call them bold, political moments. Clint gave a small chuckle. Oh, I was wondering when we get to that. The audience laughed, and even Fiona cracked a grin. She lifted her hands. Hey, I have to ask. I mean, you've made some, let's say, memorable statements over the years. Do you ever regret any of them? Clint shook his head without hesitation. Regret? No. But I do find it funny how people hold on to moments instead of looking at the bigger picture. One speech, one comment. It's never the whole story. Fiona raised a brow. Even the empty chair moment? The crowd burst into laughter, and Clint simply smiled. Especially that. The way he said it, with zero embarrassment, threw Fiona off for just a second. She had expected him to dodge, to get defensive, but instead, he met it head-on. And in that moment, the audience, even those who had started out against him, couldn't help but respect the man's composure. The conversation went on, each exchange a careful balance of wit and resolve. By the time the show wrapped up, something had shifted in the room. Fiona, usually the undeniable victor in these verbal duels, found herself in unfamiliar territory, facing a man who wasn't playing to win, but simply to speak his truth. I've always believed that work isn't about age, Clint said evenly. It's about what you bring to the table. Whether you're 25 or 94, if you've got something worth saying or doing, why stop? A few polite claps echoed through the audience, but Fiona wasn't backing down just yet. Sure, but times change, don't they? She pressed, a sly smirk playing on her lips. I mean, your early films? Classics, no doubt. But let's be real, they're not exactly praised for their progressive representation of women or minorities. Ever feel like those old-school values you portrayed don't really hold up anymore? Laughter and applause rippled through the crowd, clearly enjoying the pointed jab. But Clint? He didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned back slightly, his expression calm. I think it's important to remember, he began, his voice steady, that films are a reflection of their time. They capture what people were thinking, feeling, and struggling with. Sure, some things don't age well, but that's true of anything in life. Progress isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning from it. The laughter quieted. The energy in the room shifted ever so slightly as the audience mulled over his words. Sensing this, Fiona quickly pivoted. Fair point, she conceded with a casual shrug. But let's talk politics. You've never been shy about your views, and let's just say they don't exactly match up with, well, a lot of this audience. Ever worry that being so outspoken might alienate people who used to look up to you? Clint met her gaze, a faint smile touching his lips. I've always believed in being honest about who I am and what I stand for. If that means some people don't like me, so be it. Integrity isn't about being popular. It's about standing by your principles, even when it's not convenient. A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of agreement and skepticism. Fiona, determined to keep control of the conversation, leaned in again. But don't you think that kind of stubbornness can make you seem out of touch? She asked, her tone dripping with mock concern. The world's moving forward, and some might say you're clinging to the past. Clint chuckled softly, his eyes twinkling with something unreadable. You call it clinging, I call it staying grounded. The world moves fast, Fiona. But sometimes, in its rush to change, it forgets the value of what came before. The studio went quiet for a beat. Not awkward, not uncomfortable, just quiet. The audience, who had been so quick to laugh at Fiona's jabs earlier, now seemed caught off guard by the simplicity and clarity of his response. Fiona hesitated for the briefest moment, then recovered. Fair enough, she said lightly. But surely, you can admit there's always room for improvement in the way things used to be done? Of course, Clint replied without missing a beat. There's always room for improvement. But improvement doesn't mean throwing away the foundation. It means building on it. You can't write a new chapter if you're too busy tearing out the old pages.